All right, so hello everyone. Um, we're back with another video that's something different this time because just now that the Winter of Champions 2024 tournament has completed, I've seen many new tier lists made on the Discord, which characters are the new top three and whatever. So I thought, yeah, why not make one of my own? But ranking the characters themselves would be insanely boring. Everyone can do that. Today, we are ranking all the sidekicks in the game. Each sidekick will be ranked in the tiers, like D is the worst, S is the best, of course. Um, the tiers also will be ordered, but now the question is, how do we rank those sidekicks? Um, First of all, the one health token sidekicks I will just consider like, yeah, you have all of them and just rank them as, yeah, you have multiple bodies. And then like, but the biggest criteria for these tier lists is like, how essential is the sidekick for your game plan? As a hero, how much power budget does the sidekick have? How much value does the sidekick get in any game? Um, and those kind of stuff. But yeah, without further ado, um, we will just hop right into it, I guess. With the first one, the worst sidekick in the game being the squirrels from Squirrel Girl. Well, squirrels are small fighters. They can only use 6 out of your 30 cards in the whole deck. They don't do shit. They're just annoying, and yeah, like I said, they can't really do anything. They're just there to buff up your cards, and that's it. Like, they themselves don't do anything. That's bad. Yeah. Next up, the second worst sidekick in the game, in my opinion, is Bess from Houdini. The usual thing is, the best cards are usually only used for boosting. That would be the action gain, and of course set the stage to rip one card out of the opponent's hand. So the cards that would make her useful are like just for boosting and like not actually played. So the only time where she actually gets value is just as a body block or to swap with Houdini with the 3 value versatile. And that's kind of it. Of course, she can throw something like the boostable 3, but yeah, it's uh it's not enough for me to put her higher because usually Houdini is just fine with her instantly dying and he doesn't care because she's like not important at all. So yeah. Mm, a bit above her, I have put Wiglaf just because of the singular reason that hey, he has 9 health. And he can actually do a bit more because he can use Fatal Struggle. He has his scheme that can be a pass or give you free rage. But usually you don't use more than one block on Wiglaf because Beowulf only has 12 blocks, and yeah, any more would be kind of wasted because Wiglaf, other than that, doesn't do much. His cards are mainly used for boosting your Ancient Heirloom later or just for boosting around. Then, next up, we have the hand from Electra. This was a really difficult one because, like, the hand having a total of 12 one-health sidekicks throughout the game is insane. Like, it would technically, the hand is like one half of the reason why Electra is so broken, but the other part is the hand is also the reason why Electra loses some of her matchups insanely hard. Um, the Houdini matchup, the Daredevil matchup, Luke matchup, all of these are just close or bad for Electra just because of the hand. Because the hand can only use 4 cards in her whole deck. Of course, they can do the insane combo turn if you revive, if you have the fist, the action gain. Yeah, sure, that is totally fine. But your opponent will probably play around that if they see that you're playing for it. And then like it's not that useful, and they only have one defense. With the ninjutsu where they can teleport, and that's it. The only other actually useful thing that they are is body blocks and to swap with Electra with Snake Root. But they are kind of like more bad for you than they are good in some matchups. So that's just why I put them here. Technically, there could be an argument made for them being like way higher, but I just think they are in most matchups since Electra doesn't really rely on them. She could just run away. Anyways, they're just a bit more of a pain for Electra herself, and yeah, that's why they're here. And last one in D tier, I have Wong himself. Yeah, Wong in Stranger's game plan is also like not that important. He has one card himself with Steadfast Disciple, which is like okay, it keeps up your draw as if you would like use Stranger's ability, and it deals one ping to the opponent, which is nice, but well, it's nothing you really need. And the only other card he actually interacts with is Master of Kamatage, where it bumps to 4 if Strange and Wong are adjacent. That can be a big interaction in some matchups where Strange actually gets aggroed down and worries about his health. Then having that technically 4 block could matter, but most of the time Strange just doesn't care, and that's Wong die. Turn 2 or whatever, and just uses him as a body block. He can technically also use rings to heal back Strange, but well, then you don't get your recursion, and yeah, I just think your opponent mainly attacks Wong to waste cards from Strange because every card Strange uses with Wong on defense or attack, he can't recur. So it's like, again, just like with Hand, I think Wong is in many games with Strange is just actually bad for him, so he just wants him to die. And yeah. Then, jumping up, C tier, we have the sisters from Dracula. Um, the sisters are an interesting one because they are, of course, one half sidekicks, so you have three of them. And they're good body blocks. Dracula only has, what was it, also 12 blocks, I think. So having multiple bodies on the board is important for you. You also have two revives, so it's technically five sisters. Um, but the sister cards themselves, like, they don't do much usually. They can use ambush, which is really good, but their main use is their one scheme being Ravening Seduction because as Dracula, you need that damage to actually lower your opponent's health to a point where you can beast form lethal them. So sisters are definitely more useful than the other D tier sidekicks, but they are still one health sidekicks, and since Dracula only has 12 blocks, you really have to think about when to defend them. And since they're one health, well, they will die pretty easily, and like any ping damage and stuff will just kill them. So yeah, sisters of course are important for Dracula if he gets the Ravenings, but I think he's still okay if he doesn't get them because, or at least not with full value, because he can at least get two of the Ravenings every game, kind of just by default because he can play the revive and after that play a Ravening to ensure that that happens on his turn before your opponent has a chance to kill them. So it's not like, yeah, they are too important, but yeah, I think they're just okay. They're also like one health sidekicks. I just value the other multi-health sidekicks a bit higher because they actually do stuff more than just body blocking most of the time. But yeah. Next up, we have Drusilla from Spike's deck. Um, well, Spike's the worst character in the game, so it's cool that his sidekick is a bit useful because Drusilla, in my opinion, is the only reason Spike can do something. It's like, okay, Spike can't do anything, but if he could do anything, Drusilla would be the reason. Um, Drusilla has a scheme, being the side, that technically is insane. Like, it's already chosen this card, that's already really good. But if your opponent has a fighter on a shadow token, it's two chosen discards, which is holy cow. Um, that's just like Network of Spies from Squirrel's deck, and you have two copies, so that could be four chosen discards. Well, of course, you are playing Spike, so your opponent will never be on a shadow token, so that doesn't care. Doesn't matter. But yeah, well, since your ability allows you to also place a shadow token adjacent to Drusilla, there are some scenarios against some fighters where you can actually pin them at the start of the game with Drusilla and Spike and then actually get them to be on a shadow token in some cases. So yeah, but once Drusilla is dead, the opponent just runs away from Spike himself because he has like no way to cut their way off with multiple bodies or whatever. So once Drusilla is dead, Spike is dead basically. So that's why she's in C tier, but like she also doesn't have the best defense package in the game and like doesn't do much offensively. She's just there to place the shadow tokens and like that's already bad mechanics. So yeah, I think she's C tier. Quite fine here. Just probably if she was in any other deck with the same cards, she would be way higher. But since she is in Spike's deck and Spike can't do shit, I think she's this low. Um, Same. Also going for Faith from Angel's deck. Faith actually is an insane damage monster if you get all of her cards. She has 3 printed 5s for herself and 3 schemes that deal 2 auto damage. So holy cow, Faith is dangerous. But Faith can only block with, I think, what was it, 9 cards in all of Angel's deck? And all of them are 3 blocks or lower. So she just dies. Like, she dies turn 2 and nothing you can do about it. She has 8 health, which is kind of beefy, but, well, if you can only block for print 3, that 8 health will go down like nothing. Um, I think she's a bit better than Drusilla because she actually can do stuff at some point. She can also like throw shifts or whatever. And she also interacts with Angel's ability, which can be a bad thing, but most of the time, since she's only alive early game, that's good because you want the card draw there. Um, but yeah, she just sucks otherwise. So yeah. Next was a hard one again, putting the engine workers in C tier. Of course, Muldoon is most of the time just about like hiding behind them. He has technically 9 of them. Um, and they can throw something like Second Shot and Rending Shot, which are like 2 good attacks in his deck. But since Muldoon is not much about attacking with big values, they're just like annoying and will get farmed off throughout the game because Muldoon also has only 8 good defenses he can use. So any defense on a 1 health worker is pretty costly for him. So he just usually lets them die, and it's just numbers. Of course, it's still like more useful than the hand, for example, which are like also just numbers, but the workers can at least feint and use basically all of the defenses that Muldoon can, except for the blue one. So I think they're a bit more useful, but it's not like that they themselves do much. They just they just keep your opponent away from attacking Muldoon. So it's just basically body blocking with 9 things on the board that will die eventually. So yeah. Next up, we have Willow. Not Willow, it's Tara. It's Tara from Willow's deck. Okay, so Tara is an interesting one because, of course, Willow relies on Tara to actually play with her ability because she can only become Light Willow again if she is adjacent to Tara or with her 5 value block, but you only have 2 of those and they might be buried. So Tara is insanely important for Willow, and the reason why I have put her like above Faith and Drusilla is first of all knowledge of the craft, 4 value versatile that if she wins combat she can return a card from discard pile back to hand. In the Angel matchup in box, this card is insanely broken because Angel can't defend for higher than print 3. So that card is guaranteed to trigger except if played against a Feint. So that's insane. That's infinite knowledge of the craft. That can win you some games just by outvaluing your opponent. We're still talking about Willow, of course, but it can. And the other thing is, even if she dies, Willow has 2 revives for her. So technically, she is a 6 health sidekick with 2 times 3 health revive. So kind of like a 12 health sidekick, which such a good card and interacting with the ability. Well, that's definitely better than the other ones, I would say. Of course, we're still talking about Willow, so yeah, not too high because just the power in all of her deck is just like turned down because she's bad. But yeah, I think she's like Tara is a really good psychic, and the revive mechanic in other sidekick decks would be like, holy cow, that would be broken. But yeah, and then last one in C tier, I put the Harpies from Medusa. Um, Again, one health sidekicks. I think it's a bit hard to rank these because yeah, there are so many bodies and they're blocking, but like they don't do much. In the Harpy case, however, since Medusa is all about outvaluing your opponent, they have Clutching Claws, a 3 value versatile, um, that will discard a card from your opponent's hand. Medusa has 6 discards in her deck. 3 of them are just usable by the Harpies. So they are really important for her, and they can body block, and they also have like print 4 defense with Hounds. So I think they are a bit better than the other usual 1 health sidekicks that are just there for body blocking because they actually do stuff. Um, and yeah, they can use most of Medusa's deck as well with all the versatile annies that they can also like poke with, bait defenses out, and yada yada yada. They're just good. Nothing special regarding one health sidekicks, but hey, they're one health sidekicks, and like I said, I value multi-health sidekicks way above one health sidekicks just because they might actually do stuff. Um, but yeah, speaking of multi-health psychic, we will start the beat here with a special multi-health psychic, being the archers from Yanenga. The archers from Yanenga are really cool because they are 2 and they each have 2 health. So that's already special. Because the difference between 2 health and 1 health is actually insanely big. Your opponent might attack them and deal them 1 damage. With a 1 health sidekick, well, it would be gone. With the archers, well, there's still the body on the board, and the opponent will have to invest an additional card with them to get them off from the board. And they also interact with Yen's ability that she can spread her damage onto them, which is also really cool. Um, that alone would make them probably a C tier, but they also have the ability to use many cards in Yen's deck, being able to throw something like Shift, the Archer Revive, which is really good against someone like Tomoe, for example. Um, they can also throw their own cards with Divide and Conquer being a 4 if not in Yen's zone, or probably the better one, Pin the Prey, also having 2 discards and movement for the opposing fighter, which is really good for Yen because her game plan usually also, just like Medusa's, is to outvalue the opponent. So I would rank them in B tier. They're just solid sidekicks. Yen likes to have them around. Your opponent will probably try to kill them first, so Yen can distribute her damage as she wants, but they are not as big of a threat of themselves. And then next up we have the first of Buffy's sidekicks being Xander. Um, Xander is a interesting one because of course since Buffy can choose her sidekick, um, Xander will only be picked in the matchups where she wants him. So he will probably be more useful than most sidekicks consistently, because he's only getting picked if he is the better one for the job. That being said, Xandar is actually pretty beefy because he can use many of Buffy's cards, and he has Right Hand Man, which is an insanely good card, being a 6 if he is adjacent to Buffy. As like the 6 value attack is really strong, like we've seen that for someone like Misty in Luke's deck. It's really good for a sidekick, and you can also block with that for 6, so he is tanky and also stays on the board. He also has the 3 movement from Buffy to kind of keep pins on your opponent. Um, Then like his military knowledge is also really good. Kind of just to keep up pressure with the draw, 4 value attacks, you don't complain about that. He's just a solid sidekick. Of course, it's still in Buffy's stack, so not too crazy, but he's good. Next up, we have Buffy's other sidekick being Giles. Um, Giles kinda is also an interesting one. Just like with Xander, you only pick him if you really want his benefits. Um, being probably most of the time you're just picking him for insight. Um, just being able to look at your opponent's hand and discard 3 cards throughout the game is insanely good. Training, from my experience, doesn't get used as much because you don't want draw 3 most of the time, because Buffy already has enough draw, in my opinion, with Daring Strike, for example. But it can still be helpful. Um, the only like caveat to Giles is since he doesn't get defenses from his own cards, he can only use the Annies in Buffy's stack, which in some cases can lead to him just dying really fast because before he can actually use his cards. But that's why you only pick him like in matchups where that's not as likely. Um, in other ones you would just pick Xander for the survivability. So yeah, they're both solid sidekicks. Of course, still in Buffy's deck, but yeah, I would put them just in the middle of B tier. And then next up we have the last of our one health sidekick bros. It's the Outlaws from Robin Hood. Um, I think the Outlaws are probably, that's why I put them here, the best one health sidekicks in the game, just because of one big reason being highway robbery. Highway robbery is an insane card in most games, half of Robin's damage output. A 2 value cancel and ignore. That's 2 damage you get for free if not fainted. They have the big mind game between highway robbery and wily fighting. If you take a robbery, you're fine because you didn't waste a card, and you take 2. If you take a wily, well, highway robbery is still there, and you took 4 undefended, which is insane. Also, they can use Robin's ability to hop back after attacking, so the Outlaws are just really good. The only problem, as always, they only have 1 health, and, well, since Robin can't defend higher than 3, they also can't, so farming cool effects on them is really easy. And they're pretty squishy. Of course, you have 6 of them, but just that attacking power, if you get all of the robberies, that's kind of half of Robin's power budget just in these cards, so that's why they're in B tier. They are really decent sidekicks. You don't complain if you would have them in any deck. And then, well, we only have big chunky sidekicks left. The next one will be the Porter from Sinbad. Porter is actually insanely underrated. Most people just think he's another Wong and just let him die. I would disagree with that. Porter is a menace. First of all, Porter also gets the buff from Sinbad's movement. So if Sinbad can move 7, the Porter also can move 7, which is insane. You can hide him behind Sinbad, you can hide Sinbad behind him and just send him across the board to attack. He can use basically every single card in the deck except for the Voyages and Toil and Danger on attack, so he can throw the commanding, which is insane. He can throw shifts on offense. He has his own card with a draw 2 that's really impactful for Sinbad in the early game to keep up the pressure, keep up the draw, find his Voyages. Port is just insanely a good sidekick, and the only reason he's like not higher is because he's like he can use everything that Sinbad can, but nothing special on his own. Kinda. That's the only reason why he's like only in B tier for me, because there's like no urgent reason to kill him ASAP. But other than that, he's just solid. And you have to kill him at some point in the game probably, but it's not as urgent as with other sidekicks. Then, next up, the total opposite for me being Shuri from Black Panther. Shuri is a difficult one because Like she has her scheme, which is one of the most ridiculous cards in all of Unmatched, where she steals the top two cards of your opponent's deck and just adds them to the bright premium suit for you to boost with. It's insane. Like that scheme alone, you want to kill her ASAP, but at the same time, she only can block for three basically. No other way around it. So she also like dies instantly. So all of Black Panther's games are like, okay, opening hand, do I have Shuri Scheme? Yes, okay, she gets value. No, okay, she's dead turn one. So that's kind of like it's kind of like a coin flip with Shuri. She is insanely strong with her cards, with the ones she has, with the steel and also like the healing for Panther is also good because he has Swatching health and no other healing. So like you, she is insanely valuable to you, but you can't really defend her. So that's kind of like a bit sad, but also like really good because if Black Panther would get all of Shuri's value in each game, that oh, holy cow, please no. But yeah, that's why she's in B tier. If she had better defenses and like more survivability, she would probably be just from the cards be an S tier sidekick. But like this, I would put her in like the upper B tier. And then the last one in B tier, I will put Jabberwock. Um, Jabberwock is Jabberwock from Alice's deck is just he's an attacking machine. Like holy, um, all of his four cards are like insanely strong. You have the Jaws that bite, which is a 4 value attack that deals 2 damage after combat, which can backfire, but usually doesn't if you position right. And then also the Claws that catch, it's just like basically a 5 against heroes. So Jabberwock is an attacking powerhouse. Usually you go in with Alice aggressive in the start, and once she starts taking damage a bit, because she's big and like her defenses aren't that great, she backs off, becomes small, and you let Jabberwock do half of your game basically. Um, he also has 8 health, so he's pretty beefy. But only thing, his defenses are like, eh. He has skirmish, which is of course really good. He technically could defend with Manxam, but I don't think that's ever worth it. Um, and then he has something like shift on defense, which you're also not happy about, but might be okay. And of course, feint. Um, so your opponent will probably need like 3 or 4 attacks on him, but also not much more. But just like his attacking power, it's enough for me to put him in the top of B tier. Just wish he was a bit more like tanky in his block cards, but yeah, I guess if you have a +1 defense fighter as a hero, you can't assume to have big blocks for your sidekick on the any cards. Because hey, if Alice could use them, that would be a bit strong. So yeah, that's like more than half done. We'll jump right into the A tier. Where's Charlie? Charlie from Annie's deck is really interesting because in some cases you don't want him around. Just so your opponent has to attack Annie and lower her health so she can actually use her ability. In other cases, just like we've seen in the recent Winter of Champions game, um, Charlie against I think it was Borderham versus Chad, where Chad played Annie against Borderham's Ingen. Charlie did everything. Like Charlie, it was a one-man army. It was Charlie against Ingen. It was not Annie versus Ingen. It was Charlie versus Ingen. It's insane. He can use like half of any stack. He has bottom dealing, which is a bit random, but can be a 6 value attack. And even if it's a 5, hell, it's a ranged 5. He can use long shot 4 or 5. He has good draw. He has 8 health. He has like 4 healing basically, so kind of 12 health. He's insanely versatile, and like your opponent will try to focus on Charlie in the early game every single time just to not interact with Annie. So he will get big value probably just wasting a bunch of their good cards while Annie can still bash at them. And like I said, he has healing, he has many good cards. He's just overall solid sidekick and really good addition to Annie's deck. I think without him, oh boy, she would suck. So yeah. And speaking of without the sidekick, the hero would suck insanely hard. We have Merlin from Arthur's deck. Merlin is the sole reason why Arthur can do some matchups. Merlin is the only reason for that. He has so many schemes that are really good. He has like Command the Storm, which is like Arthur's biggest problem is movement. So being able to move each fighter on the board 3 spaces is holy, that's a lot of movement. Um, then he has like the damage one and prophecy for more card draw or just damage, which is like really good for Arthur because he needs those cards to boost his attacks and actually deal some damage and have good defenses. So Merlin is insanely important for Arthur's deck. He also has Bewilderment as a defense, which kinda is 2 times ultimate defense, 2 times he doesn't take damage if not fainted. So that's really good. He also has his own 4 value attack that draws 2 after combat. So yeah, Merlin is just a really good sidekick. Sadly, he dies way too early most of the time because your opponent focuses him ASAP. Because after that, Arthur is basically dead. Um, but like he is still insanely valuable, and he has tools to survive with Bewilder and like blocking with Skirmish or whatever. He has enough things, and he's also like ranged, so he can attack from distance. And yeah, that's Merlin. Yeah, I don't think I have to say anything else. Um, Next up, I have Dr. Ian Malcolm from Settler. Um, I've put him so high because Settler's ability says whenever one of them moves to a different space, they place an insight token on that space. So since all of her cards basically rely on having many insight tokens on the board, once Malcolm dies, well, she can only place one per maneuver. If Malcolm is still alive, she can place one and he places one. So that's like double the amount of insight you get throughout a game if Malcolm is around, which is like insanely valuable for you. He also has his card, I think it was Life Finds a Way, which discards the top card of your opponent's deck and heals him and Settler for the boost value, which can be insane healing, and Mill from your opponent is also like really good. So he's insanely valuable to you. Once he is dead, most of your cards are basically dead because you just need way too long to actually get them to trigger with all of your insight, because you like have to do 5 maneuvers to actually get your good attack running with a 7. Um, so yeah, that's why he's so important, and he has probably enough tools to survive with all of the healing in the deck and like many cards being able to move, and like he can use the 2 auto damage defense. Um, he's just overall a really good sidekick, and your opponent wants to focus him ASAP. Next up, I have Misty. Misty Knight from Luke Cage. Misty is one hell of a menace regarding attacking power. She can throw 3 ranged commandings. She can throw both still standings, being a 4. She has Daughter of the Dragon, which is a 6. It's holy, she deals a lot of damage. Her biggest weakness is first, she only has 6 HP, and second, her blocks. Her blocks fucking suck. Of course, she can use Daughter of the Dragon on defense, which is a 6, so she probably won't take damage there, but I think in most cases you actually want to attack with that. Um, and other than that, she has pushback, which is a 2 value defense, which is like, eh? And you usually want it to boost Hero for Hire with, because it's one of your only 3 boosts in the deck. Other than that, she can defend with Trash Talk, of course, which is kind of just like Feint on defense, which is okay, but if your opponent attacks with a big value, like commanding from themselves, that's well, not great. And then she has Got My Back, which like, okay, she can swap with Luke, and then Luke basically has a print 3 block without effect, which in Luke's case is not great, because if he takes too much damage over that, because the opponent maybe attack with a lock from Bigfoot, and he takes 3 from that, Luke doesn't like that at all, because Luke only has 13 HP and no healing. So You have to be really careful when to actually swap with that card. And if you don't swap, well, it's only a one value. So still, Misty, well, she can deal so much damage. She's still ranged, so she has the big option of swapping with Luke. So she's still one hell of a menace, and your opponent will want to kill her every single time, and that as quick as possible, probably. And yeah, you still have the option to play Daughter of the Dragon on defense, I guess. So yeah, I think she's pretty good here in like the middle or top of A tier, and we will actually get to the next one that kind of also fits her playstyle of big damage but no defense, being the Huntsman from Little Red. Um, Huntsman is probably the number one target regarding sidekicks. Uh, he has two schemes in the deck, which each heal Little Red for 4 health, which is a total of 8 healing just on for a sidekick that a sidekick can use for the hero. Holy, that's much value. He also can swing for 3 sixes if played on adjacency. Holy, that's big. But of course, biggest weakness of his is the defensive package. He can only block with 3 blocks in all of Little Red stack, being Once Upon a Time, which is nice for 3 auto damage, of course, but it's only a print 2. Then the Wolf Skin, being a 2 that draws 2 cards. And then, of course, Stones in the Belly, the best one out of them, probably, for defense for him, which is basically a versatile ambush. Those cards alone would probably still be fine for him because he has 9 health, and yeah. The problem is the effects only trigger if the fitting symbol is on the top of a basket, so your opponent always knows what you can actually defend with or not. If you have anything but knives on top of this card, he can only defend for print 2, or maybe not even defend at all. If you have the Wolfsbane on top, well, you don't have any effects, you just have blank 2s, which is really bad. Um, so you have to really try to keep knives on top as red as often as possible to keep like stones there for Huntsman. Um, and like Huntsman, you don't really expect to get all of his cards. You don't even expect to get healing out of him. Because red will usually not get attacked until Huntsman is dead. You kind of measure how good he was concerning like regarding how much value he got by wasting opponent's cards. How much resources did they spend, and maybe he got one or two sixes off and dealt damage over their good blocks. That's kind of like how you measure how much value he got. Um, so he doesn't really get to play his cards, but he's still a 9 health sidekicks with the potential to play them. So that on its own is like the reason why he's like top of A tier here. If he had better blocks, like some other insanely important sidekick with good schemes that we'll get to later, then he would probably be S tier. But other than that, well, he's still like big powerhouse, and in some matchups, he's a giga chat. Like he can solo sometimes the opponent just with all of his sixes and damage, and ooh, it's insane cool. I love Huntsman. Yeah. Next up we have Dr. Watson from Sherlock. Dr. Watson is a tricky case because I think Sherlock would be totally fine without him. But just adding him to Sherlock's deck is like, whoo, that's even better. Watson is a 8 health sidekick, also ranged. So that's already insane. Usually like ranged sidekicks have like worse defenses, like Misty has bad defenses, Merlin well has 2 bewilders and that's kinda it after skirmish. Huntsman has his symbol problem. Shuri only can defend for print 3. Yeah, Watson doesn't care. Um, Watson has actually many good options with like Feint, the his own card that also is basically like a print 4 block because it's healing for him and also for Sherlock, which is insane because hey, as if Sherlock wasn't tanky enough. He also gets a total of 4 healing from Watson, because why not? And 4 healing on Sherlock is way more important than healing on anyone else, because hey, anyone else still might die. 4 healing on Sherlock is basically, yeah, you need to waste 4 additional cards to actually get through that. So that's insane. He can also throw 2 print 5s from ranged with his service revolvers, which is like also big damage in Sherlock's deck. But yeah, mainly used for body block and the healing for Sherlock. If you can just kind of switch them around, maybe at the start you have Sherlock up front to deal damage with counterpunch, then you like you switch and put Watson up front to actually heal Sherlock back up, and have Watson tank some hits. And then later you put Sherlock back up front, and Sherlock and Watson can use his revolvers from ranged and deal damage while he's still alive. And then later, when you don't have to use him anymore, you put Watson up front of him again. And yeah, he's just a really versatile sidekick. He also can't have his own cards cancelled, so the healing is guaranteed, which is really insane. And yeah, he's just really strong and beefy sidekick, and your opponent will have a pain in the ass just getting through him just to get to Sherlock. And then the last one in A tier. It was a bit hard to place them. It's Wukong's clones. I've said before that Robin's Outlaws are probably the strongest one health sidekicks. That was a bit of a lie, because I don't really consider the clones one health sidekicks, because they're just basically Wukong 2.0. Um, the clones, of course, are clones, so they can use every single card in Wukong's deck, which is insane. So they're basically mini Wukongs with 1 HP. You technically have an infinite amount of them, as long as you have health, because you can summon one for just 1 HP. And they will usually suck up insane amounts of damage. Wukong himself usually doesn't do much, like your opponent only fights the clones themselves. So I put them in the top of A tier because you kind of just fight the clones in the whole game. They do everything, you only basically attack them, and yeah. They're just really good, and that's it. Not much to say about it. And then we'll get to the S tier sidekicks, in my opinion. This might be a controversial one, because some might say, huh, you've put like the Buffy sidekicks in C tier because there's in like the Buffy decks, which are like really bad. Why you put Honor Guards now in S tier? I think it's a bit different story with Oda, because like with the Buffy decks, with like Drusilla or Faith, I think it's just a mandatory flaw in their character that kind of prevents them from being good, because like the character still is like there, and Angel can throw print fives. Spike, okay, could do something at some point. Um, Willow has Flayed Alive, which could be a 7. Uh, Oda, in this case, doesn't have anything. Once the Honor Guards are dead, Oda can't do anything. The Honor Guards are all of his damage, all of his survivability, basically everything in his deck. So they kind of have all the power budget of a hero, the only flaw being not being able to cancel and like their mediocre blocks. But since they are all of Oda's power budget, he relies so heavily on them. I think it would be a bit of a shame to not put them in S tier, because they're like so insanely good sidekicks. They of course are like not as good as the other ones we'll get to now, but I think they still deserve the place in S tier. Next up, well, mysterious sidekick with the schemes. Oh boy, Daisy. Daisy is a menace. Daisy in Jill's deck is insane. She can use basically every single card that Jill can, basically, except like the Jill cards, of course, being Utility Belt, Battle of Wits, and Hypnotist. Hypnotist is probably the most important one that she can't use because she can't cancel, but well, usually she doesn't care because everything else in Jill's deck is just so insanely strong. She can block for print 5. Even she can block for 4 print 5s, technically. She can throw 4 print 5 attacks with Ace Fighter and like Energizing Spray, and that in one turn, because why not? Um, And of course, Daisy Scheme. Shuffling 3 Jill cards back is insane for the value game. That's a total of 6 extra cards you can use. Your opponent will want to kill Daisy ASAP, but they might just not kill her the whole game because she is basically a hero herself. Like, I'm sure Daisy on her own with only all the any cards in the deck and the Daisy Scheme being able to recur like any cards would be able to solo Buffy or like the Buffy set. I am sure Daisy could do that. Because she can use basically everything in the deck and everything is so strong. Holy. Yeah. Not much I have to say about her. I think I've talked about her enough in the Jill guide. Daisy's an insanely strong sidekick, probably like one of the best we've seen yet. And yeah. Next up, I have Pat for Achilles. Well, Achilles is basically, well, the whole of Achilles' game plan relies on Pat. Because once Pat dies, he gets +2. So, and becomes angry and draws a card after combat. So, the whole game, you and your opponent are playing the kind of mini game when to kill Pat. Achilles will probably want to kill him ASAP, just to get that +2 buff and the draw. Your opponent will probably want to prevent that, and maybe when you're at 10 cards in deck each, then they want to kill Pat to make Achilles exhaust because he doesn't have like many good stuff left. But like, even if they don't kill Pat, Pat has like 4 insanely strong attack cards with Battle Frenzy and I think Day of Your Doom was it, that are like almost always 2 damage basically on your opponent. He can use almost every single card in the deck. I think the only one he can't use is Spear Throw and Honor Achilles Helm. But like, yeah, he is so important for Achilles' game plan. He is basically all of Achilles' game plan, and he can still do so much on his own. That I think it would be a shame to not put him in S tier. Patterson, it's same menace of sidekick. Like, as long as Achilles is not angry, Pat is probably the scarier one, which is really funny. Like, when I played against Achilles with Widow, I was more scared of Pat than I was of Achilles, which is so insanely funny. Um, because Pat is just such a menace, and yeah, just because he is like the whole of Achilles' game plan, I think he deserves to be here. And then, well, who will be number one? Who will be number two? I think you could make an argument actually to the top 4 sidekicks to be number one. I think not the honor guards. I think they're just a bit too squishy for that. But every other of those 4 could be number one, I think. But the number 2 will be Jackalope from Bigfoot's deck. Jackalope, just as Daisy and Pat, can basically play every single card in the deck, almost. He cannot play Crashing Through the Trees. He cannot play the Log and Savagery. Everything else, well, Jackalope can do it. And of course, he has his scheme, being the Jackalope Horns, which is like 3 copies and each 2 auto damage. That's 6 auto damage. Your opponent can't do anything about that. If Jack is alive, you're guaranteed to have that 6 damage onto anyone on the board, which is insane value. And then, like, there are some games where you just, like, hide Bigfoot in a corner, send Jack out, and he solos the whole enemy because Bigfoot just rapid draws with his ability because he's alone in his zone because Jack's doing all the work. And since Jack can basically use everything in the deck, well, your opponent has to deal with a second hero. It's insanely good. Um, and yeah, Jack is just a menace. I think just as Daisy, he could probably solo Buffy, like the Buffy set, some of them. I'm pretty sure he could. Yeah, he's a menace, and your opponent will want to kill him ASAP, as always with these good sidekicks. And that leaves Maria from Widow as the best sidekick, in my opinion. This was a tricky one, because Maria technically doesn't have like the widest amount of cards that she can use. She basically only has Director, Double Identity, and Feint that she can actually play herself. But I think she is so important for Widow that she had to be this high. Um, Widow is all about her schemes. If she doesn't get to play her schemes, she is pretty much doomed in every single game. Um, and Maria, with Director being able to shuffle three of them back in a game, that's insane. That could be three passes, that's three extra cards to your deck, and that's even if it's passes, it's like three of insanely good passes. It's either two discard, two auto damage, well, sometimes draw five, which wouldn't be a pass, but hey, you could also do that. Um, and like the card just does everything. Print four, versatile, shuffling back, move three through opposing fighters with both of them. Holy, and like Maria's value doesn't end there. Um, she also has like double identity as a swap where you can just keep her alive even longer, or maybe if Widow gets attacked by Beast Form, you can just swap into Maria, who was maybe at 1 or 2 health, and she tanks the whole Beast Form. Then she also has like life model decoy, um, where if your opponent maybe didn't expect it and wanted to kill her, well, she gets revived. Haha! She can technically kind of also have healing like this and have like upwards of 10 health total, which is oh my oh my lord. Um, I think Maria is just such an insane menace. She can also like attack with fake outs instead of directors and bait feints out and actually combo or whatever. She's just so important for Widow and insanely strong on her own. It's insane. Of course, she probably won't be able to solo anyone because, well, her value comes from getting the schemes back, and she can't play the schemes. But I think it's she's just still so valuable that she belongs here. But still, yeah, like I said, the top four you could probably swap them out with each other. There is an argument to be made for each of them being the best sidekick in all of Unmatched. Um, but yeah, this is my opinion for them. I hope I could give you some good reasoning on my opinions. But yeah, tell me your list, maybe your top three, top four, top five, whatever, your S tier in the comments. Do you disagree with any picks? Hardly. Um, would you put any? Maybe you want to put Bess in S tier because she's the best, pun intended. Um, or maybe you just think the Honor Guard is overrated and you put them in D tier because they also suck because all of Oda's deck sucks. Um, Tell me in the comments and also tell me if you like this kind of like non-traditional video. Um, but yeah, other than that, we will see you on the next Sunday, on next Strategy Sunday with Moon Knight. And yeah, have a great time.